And
Yeah. Well, he is playing 4 Dreadbore, 4 Mizium Mortars. And one of the keys to these red-white Devotion decks is they assemble very explosive things to do with Nykthos. It's like, I think outside of green, it's probably like the most explosive Nykthos deck.
yeah.
So you do have...
This one is a little smaller. It doesn't have Stormwrath Dragons and only has 2 Nykthos.
Okay, so it's playing a little more of a red deck wins style strategy.
Yeah, this is more of like a normal red deck that just kind of has Nykthos for value. If you ever just have the one, and maybe you can play 2 or 3 spells off it.
Yeah. One thing that I think has helped out the red-white Devotion deck is that they now get to play 4 Eidolon of the Great Revel. This is something that at the beginning of the format they didn't have, but I think has really come into its own as just a good Magic card.
Yeah, I think if you're the burn deck, people initially thought that Eidolon was going to be awesome in that deck, and that didn't end up to really be the case. I think most people are back on Young Pyromancer at this point, but if you are a creature-based deck and you are able to do consistent chunks of damage without having to cast spells, then Eidolon is a very solid main deck card.
Yeah, the card is just pretty good, and it passes the test of having, you know, a lot of colored mana symbols in it, which, at least when we moved forward with Theros, there weren't too many candidates for Devotion decks. You know, they were playing a lot of the Ravnica big mana symbol cards, but there weren't too many, you know, it's not like there were tons of red 2-drops, new ones being printed that you could pick out of.
No, I mean, like, you have the Burning Tree Emissary, which is pretty much a staple, and then you have options between kind of like some mediocre stuff like Ash Zealot, Frostburn Weird, like things that aren't exactly what you want to be doing. But Eidolon is right there, right? That is the thing that you want.
All right, we are underway. Zahn is on the play. Starts off with a Sacred Foundry into play tapped. Steven's going to play a tap land too. His is a Temple. We do see in Steven's deck, it looks like he has lowered his mana curve. We see both a Magma Spray in his hand, accompanied by a Dreadbore. So he's certainly going to try to just kill all the things. First thing played, though, by Zahn is a Frostburn Weird.
That can't get sprayed.
Nope.
That guy's big.
You can get Dreadbored. I don't know if you want to Dreadbore it.
I think you do. I mean,
you just want to kill everything.
I think you want to kill enough stuff and then start playing big things. And then hopefully your big things are better than the follow-ups that they have.
So you want to kill like the first 2 to 3 things they play.
Yeah, just keep your head above water, maintain a relatively high life total, and then kill them with a Pelucranos or a Nissa, something like that.
How greedy is it to play a land tapped and then try to get him to pump his Frostburn twice and then Magma Spray it? It's like pretty greedy, right?
Really greedy.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I love your look there. It's like
not only is it just greedy, but I also think the likelihood of it actually happening is not very high. And like, I don't know, I just assume that he would have something else to play on turn 3 rather than just pump a bunch.
Pumps once, plays another Frostburn Weird. All right, so what about this turn? You can block it with a 0/3 and then get him to do it.
That is more realistic. And I definitely like that turn better, playing the 0/3, setting it up to maybe entice him to pump it.
Okay, all right.
And then you can Magma Spray it. That I'm fine with.
So if you play another Caryatid at a tap land and then try this play, he's going to be really confused when, well, no, because of that, you could in theory block both his Frostburn Weirds.
If he doesn't have another land.
Yeah. It'll be really fishy when you only block one Frostburn Weird.
Kind of.
Well, he'll just pump the other one. I don't know. Maybe he'll try to kill your guy. We'll see. He plays a Temple, scries, and he plays, all right, he's setting up, plays another Sylvan Caryatid.
I think it's reasonable, like, if Mann is flooded, but wants to play a 5-drop next turn, that he could block with both. Or like, only block with one, I mean. Because if you block with both, that means that you don't want 5 mana next turn. So I don't think it looks that strange.
We'll see if Zahn's going to... He did draw a mountain that turn, so he does have his 4th land. He does have a lot of good options in his hand, though. I don't think he'll make the pump. He has Chandra Pyromaster, Burning Tree Emissary in his hand. He's going to start by... It's at least free. He's going to swing both Frostburn Weirds.
Yeah, you might as well at least do that, even if no matter what happens, you're casting Chandra this turn.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to block. Might as well make them attack. They're not in danger of dying.
Well, especially since Mann has 1 mana. So even if he goes block, you could still pump to threaten to kill both. And I don't think Steven is going to make that block no matter what happens, since he only has the 1 mana and can only kill 1.
And Steven, he makes the 1 block. He blocks with a Summoning Sick Caryatid. He's trying to bait the pump here. We'll see if Zahn takes it. He does I think because Zahn has Chandra, he's not going to take the bait because he just has too good of a follow-up. And that's exactly what happens. He's like, okay, deals 1 to Steven and then plays Chandra.
Yep, and I like that play. It's certainly enticing, right? You're just like, oh, I could just kill your guy for free? All it would cost me is my turn?
Unless you have... Yeah, I mean, even if it was a free... The thing is, even if Steven has no plays, like even if it just kills the Caryatid, and Zahn knows that, I'm still not sure he wants to do that instead of playing Chandra.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what he eventually settled on.
Because in order to kill it, it would cost him, well, like, it would cost him everything. He doesn't have another play if he taps 2. So we're back on...
The other play would be pump my other Frostburn Weird.
Yeah. Back on Steven's turn. You see a Pelucranos in his hand, along with Dreadbore and others. He's got a pretty full grip. He's got 6 cards here.
Yeah, there's looks like a Nissa hanging out there too. He's certainly got plenty of options. It's hard to say what information Steven is working with without having seen game 1. Like, I don't know if he saw Zan's Chain to the Rocks in the first game, for example. That might make me a little more apprehensive about just running out a Pelucranos and hoping you're able to do something with it. Also, Zan has that Chandra, which is able to kind of keep Pelucranos on lockdown too, so.
Yeah, he's going to start by trying to just get more resources on the board, plays Courser before making a land, finds a Mutavault, plays it off the top, gains a life. And then he's going to Dreadbore away the Chandra, which is trying to keeping things slow here.
And I like that. Now, if he wants to, he can trade that Courser for a Frostburn Weird, and Zan doesn't have either an engine or a way to make his creatures not block.
Yeah, if he swings, I do think Mann will make that block, and even though that trade is, Courser is a better creature than Frostburn Weird, he'd be trading for Frostburn Weird and Zan's turn, and that's probably a good enough trade when you throw the turn in.
Yeah, and plus Mann is at 6 mana at this point. I don't think he needs to milk that Courser for any more, plus he has another Courser on top if he actually wanted to. So I think that's definitely a good trade there.
We'll see what Zan chooses to do. Plays a 5th land. It's on the all-foil mountain package, it looks like.
I'm thinking it might be time for Stormbreath Dragon to come down.
Yeah, Stormbreath Dragon will be good.
Zan does have 2 in his sideboard.
Looks like he's going to go for Chain to the Rocks on the Courser. He's going to chain it to the Sacred Foundry, and then just swing for 6, possibly. It's an aggressive line if he chooses for it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, you could play Stormbreath and get in 4 this turn, or you could do what Zan is doing and get in 6 and then maybe close out the game with Stormbreath, because it feels like pretty soon these Frostburn Weirds are not going to be as relevant.
So why not get there? Like, the Stormbreath damage is good next turn, but the Frostburn Weird damage is good now and only now.
Yeah.
This is more damage right now.
Right, and what do you need to Chain to the Rocks? Because you're probably not going to be able to get a Pelucranos out of the way to get those Frostburn Weirds in there, and you have enough things to actually, like, block the Pelucranos.
And the decision he had to make is whether or not he wanted to play Burning Tree Emissary. It did cost him 1 damage to do so, but he went ahead and played it.
Yeah, with 2 Caryatids out there, I'm not sure how much the Burning Tree is doing. Maybe just dealing the 1 damage is worth it. But if Steven wants to use those Caryatids for mana, then that Burning Tree Emissary is going to end up looking pretty good.
He's got man down to 12, so still has a little more than half of the way to go. And he's getting lower on cards. Do you see, though, he's stopping Steven from stabilizing, which is pretty important. We know that Mann has a Pelucranos. We know he has another Courser. We know he has a Nissa. And he's just going to go ahead and make a 5/5 pass the turn. He has no more lands at the moment. He could have played Courser to try to find the next land on top of his deck. But in that case, Zan can still swing into his creatures, and it looks like Mann is instead is just valuing the ability to play Pelucranos and stop all the attacks.
Yeah.
And here's the last card. It's Stormbreath Dragon. Swinging in for 4. Mann is down to 8. And he's got to be worried. Zan's on 6 lands right now. So if Mann can't kill the Stormbreath next turn, he's going to be dead to a land.
Well, he does have Pelucranos Monstrous for 2 plus Magma Spray. So I think he's
And
not.
that's all set up. Yep.
Yeah, I think he's not too worried about the Stormbreath Dragon, but it is still just like, man, I'm at 8. If you draw a couple of good spells in a row, like I'm actually going to be in trouble here.
And that's going to be it. End step, it's actually way better than that. It's 2 Magma Sprays to take care of the Storm Breath. So he's going to get to take care of it on the end step, allowing him to cast something on his own turn.
Okay. Seems like probably didn't have to take damage there, right? Is there any advantage to waiting until end step? Maybe just his decision process changed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so he is still at 12.
Yeah, he's at 12. That was before it hit. There was a pause there, so we weren't entirely sure, but
Yep, that makes more sense.
yeah, staying at 12 is ideal here. You see, and Mann's hand is pretty well set up here. You see Nissa, Xenagos, and Courser as the 3 cards in his hand. And he's against an empty board. He's going to go ahead and go to work here. Xenagos into play. Looks like he's going to play it and plus it for Courser. Just figuring if he can deploy all his cards. If he wants to deploy his cards as fast as possible.
Yeah, we've seen so many like play Xenagos, make
Plus
mana
it.
with it today.
Yeah, normally you make satyrs.
Right, probably more than I've ever seen. I mean, it's certainly one of the most important parts about the card, you know? Like, it does help you have these explosive turns, but it just generally doesn't come up that much.
Zan drew for the turn, passes. The draw for Mann is Elvish Mystic. Next card is Sylvan Caryatid, so not great draws for Mann, but his board is fine, and this is kind of one of the advantages to having these Planeswalkers in your deck is your draws become less important as long as you have live Planeswalkers.
Yeah, you have things that can give you the effect of a spell basically every turn. So yeah, his last couple draw steps have not been super great, but it's one of those things where like maybe you don't need it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, he even has things to do with his mana. He does have this Pelucranos, and like you said, here's another plus off Xenagos, and I think this one is he's going to make a really big Hydra. So 4 mana. He can monster sit for X equals 3. Let's see what he does here. He's just going to make Nissa. So we're not even monster sitting Pelucranos yet. We're making a Planeswalker. And he's plussing it so that he can get in with a land starting immediately. Nissa turns the basic forest into a 4/4 trample, and he's going to start the attacks. Like, if you're Zan, you almost have to trade with this.
I don't know. Like how much is he banking on drawing Fanatic of Mogus to deal the last few points of damage?
Sure. If Mann was at a lower life total, I think I'd be a bigger fan. Is he just trying to draw running Fanatic?
Well, if you draw 2 Fanatics in a row, you're still a point short if you trade away one of your Frostburn Weirds.
Yeah. Also, I don't believe he has Fanatic, so... Oh, he does. Okay, so he has a playset. No, you're right. So he needs 2. He needs them to be running.
You can draw the first one and then maybe trade away some stuff.
Yeah, deal 7, put him down to 5. Goblin Rabblemaster. Play for Zan.
Not a lot of help considering how locked up the board is on Mann's side.
He's got a lot of stuff in play. So here comes a 1/1 Goblin, has to attack. Plenty of things for it to swing into. Mann can kind of decide which way he wants to just eat the token, be it Courser or Pelucranos.
Yeah, I mean, I think both players know this. Token is just coming in because it has to.
He has to block it with Courser. And he'll go again this time, drawing Caryatid. Top card is Stomping Ground. He's going to get that one for free. And this is where the John Monsters deck's really good, I think, at creating resources. You see so many cards that have secondary abilities after they've resolved. You know, Pelucranos, for example, has this giant monstrous ability, which is like a spell. Courser is drawing him more cards, and then he has 2 Planeswalkers. Like, all the permanents keep doing things.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I drew some kind of useless mana guys. Now there's a land on top of my deck, which is kind of nice, but he has so much going on, and I think it's the point of the game where Mann is trying to figure out how much he can pressure Zan with, and to try and get him to have to chump block with his creatures.
Right. So it's like the first thing you want to do is you need to want to figure out, well, how does my opponent draw out of this?
Right.
What are his plays? Like, it's possible. Things that have to be concerned would be Fnatic Amogus, maybe Nykthos into Stormbreath Dragon, immediately monstrous at Swing It.
Sure.
There are like a couple things that can be pretty bad for you, but by and large, you're not worried about many top decks.
No, Mizium Mortars is one of the things where it might set you back a little bit, but you still have Pelucranos and 2 Planeswalkers, so that's why I would be trying to, the goal for this turn would be to try and kill as many of Zan's creatures as possible, so that if he does have a Mortars, it wiping away a large part of your board doesn't actually accomplish that much.
All right, so Nissa made a second 4/4 out of that Temple. So now with 6 creatures into play, Xenagos once again is making mana. So that'll put Mann up to 9 mana, 10, 11. And now I think we're going for Pelucranos. Spending 9, so this is going to be X equals 4. It can eat both the 2/2s.
And that's what I think you want to do. Yeah, just get rid of all the excess bodies.
Get rid of stuff. And the Pelucranos did take 4 in doing that. So he's going to go ahead and swing with Pelucranos and the 4/4s. So Pelucranos could get killed this turn, but it would take all of Zan's team to do it.
Yeah. I think that's worth it because, I don't know, like even if you draw Mizium Mortars, like you're still facing down these 2 Planeswalkers.
Once Zan loses his whole board, I don't think he has any outs. Like the things I mentioned, like running Fanatics or Nykthos Stormbreath, all require Zan to have a bunch of mana symbols on the board. So Steven wants to force him to get the creatures off the board.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, this attack is nice. Forces Zan to actually chump block with something if he wants to live.
And I like how Mann's playing this, how he's like trying to pressure, make enough pressure fast enough so that Zan has to chump as soon as possible.
But he's also being conservative.
Right. He's also being conservative. It's just enough to force the chump blocks and not more. Right, like this is a swing for 17 damage. And Zan's at 16, so it's just enough to make chump blocking happen. Like there's no Mutavault attacking, there's no Courser attacking. And you see there, Zan's going to go ahead and make the play where he double blocks Pelucranos, pumps his Frostburn Words, and makes the trade happen. But in the process of doing that, he goes ahead and takes 8. He actually had to take 9 because he tapped Battlefield Forge. So that will put him down to 7 and facing 2 4/4s and a Nissa.
And the question now is,
what is he drawing?
Yeah, what happens? What am I looking for?
Well, Temple sure isn't it. So 2-0, Stephen Mann moved up to 5-1 after picking up a very early loss. In, I believe, round 1, has stormed up to a 5-1 record.
Maybe that was round 1. Yeah, the Nigh Hexproof.
Yeah, that was
round 1 or round 2. It was still very early.